National Financial Awareness Day. So if it's not on your calendar, it certainly should be for our legislators in Sacramento. I want to switch gears a little bit. We've talked about outcomes. I'd like to talk about the budget side of things, the fiscal side of things. Both of you have been on the business end of really hard fiscal situations. Can you talk a little bit about what our cities and states here, state government in California can do to better manage, particularly now in times of fiscal austerity? Steve, you want to start?
You bet. First, I have to tell a story just to introduce this. I was elected Controller and Chief Financial Officer of the state of California in 2002. In a Democratic sweep, Gray Davis was governor. It was great. The economy was booming. 18 months later, we were in a financial crisis having to do with a firm called Enron and energy rates spiking. And before I knew it, the governor was recalled. For the first time in our history, overnight, an Austrian bodybuilder parachutes in that I'm working for. It was quite a shift. And you might have said, well, gee whiz, Steve, I bet you all got together to solve the problem. That's not what happened. What happened is every Democratic leader, including some of your favorites, came to me and said, screw that guy over. It's terrible what he did. Let's all kick him in the shins and torpedo him. And I said, folks, this is the world's 5th largest economy. I did not get elected to be a political hack. I got elected to solve problems. So I crossed party lines, worked with Governor Schwarzenegger, who's a remarkably easy person to work with. We got Prop 57, 58 passed. Folks, we were 11 weeks from not being able to meet payroll for the 5th largest economy. It was at that moment I began to realize you run for office, get elected to fix things, not to be an ideologue. Today, what you see is the state of California's economy, and I want you all to remember this when you go home, world's 4th largest economy. Germany has 83 million people. We have 39 million people. We have a higher GDP. The average Californian, 2x as productive. It's the most efficient European economies. But we're not managing the money very well. And the rub is, the Democrats all say, we need more money, raise taxes. That doesn't solve the problem. The Republicans say, let's kill government, it's terrible. Well, that's not quite right either. What you need to be doing is looking at how you provide services more effectively for every aspect of government, from when you call the fire department, how many minutes does it take before the truck shows up? You know, in terms of hospitals, health outcomes, stuff's all measurable. But no one's talking about they're sort of stuck in 2 tribal camps. And that's why we've developed the 21st Century Alliance, because what's really happening is you've got Republicans that are less than a third, and they're not really getting anything passed. You've got the far left of the Democratic Party. There is a core group of sort of moderate Dems and sometimes a few Republicans that we're working with to literally, as I said, kind of crack the code in Sacramento. That is what it's all about today, and it's remarkably easier to fix than you might think. So what we're going through is in each area, education, housing, and so on, saying what are the key metrics. I can run through some on housing in just a minute that really are going to make a difference in solving homelessness. Because what you don't want is platitudes. You want to know, how far are we behind in housing bills? How many do we have to build a year to catch up? And what are the 1 or 2 things you need to do that? And I'll lay that out later on. But it's all about bringing accountability, measurement, and facts back into government. So with that, let me throw it over to Matt, because he's an expert on this and has done some of these very things in San Jose.
Well, to be fair, it's not really fair to have to go after the former state controller on this question, but we do owe Steve a debt of gratitude for helping to get us through that financial crisis and what he and Brian are doing now with 21st Century Alliance. So thank you, Steve, for all of your incredible work for our state. On this question, I'd offer just a couple of thoughts. One is, I think Steve's absolutely right. The answer can't just be the government has to get bigger, it has to get better. We have to be able to prioritize and be really strategic about what are fundamental responsibilities and what are nice to haves. I think there's a temptation to always want to pretend we can be everything to everyone and make everybody happy, and sometimes you have to be able to say no and say these are the priorities. I've tried to do that in San Jose and have used our budget process to get the council to sign up for 5 focus areas. Ending unsheltered homelessness, being the safest big city in the state, clean and beautiful neighborhoods, building more housing, and growing the job base. And then actually creating dashboards and making some assumptions, having some hypotheses. Which policies and programs should we pursue and fund to achieve our North Star metric on this and create a feedback loop? And this is basic if you're coming out of, say, the tech sector. This is just performance management. You set goals, you make your hypotheses explicit, and you measure everything, and you're constantly reflecting and learning and iterating. Very foreign in government, but we have the dashboards now. This has been a fight. Believe it or not, I had opponents, other candidates in the mayor's race literally making fun of me for being the dashboard guy. I thought that it was silly. But there's been a lot of resistance to it, but we are actually setting performance targets, measuring the performance of individual programs that we in a public meeting say we think this investment in this program is going to move the needle, and then coming back every 90 days like you would expect from a CEO reporting to a board of directors. So I'm trying to bring performance management into local government. We do have to address special interest power. I have already many times been on the losing end of votes where public sector unions, good, hardworking people, but have demanded wage increases that far outstrip revenue growth. Where does that come from? Fewer services, worse services, less headcount, less staffing. That's a perennial battle, and frankly, that happens when people aren't paying much attention. And it's pretty lonely. And so that's something we really need to weigh in on. We need independent groups to call out and say, we can't give a 6% raise if revenue only went up 3% this year, or you're going to see a real degradation of services. I should also just note, I think there's a huge opportunity with technology. We are running a number of AI pilots in San Jose. We are upskilling our workforce. We now have designed a curriculum with San Jose State University for city workers to learn how to use these tools and apply them to use cases in their departments. Our Department of Transportation used pretty low cost sensors on buses and red lights to optimize all of our major bus routes, made the public buses run by our transit agencies so much faster on the major routes in San Jose that they literally complained and said, slow down, you're blowing up our schedules. And we're now saying to them, why don't you get rid of the schedules? If the buses run 25% faster, you could just run more buses, you could run more loops. Just get rid of the schedule, you have better headways and the bus will come faster. So we're seeing productivity gains for once in government. I haven't seen that in a generation or two. AI is transformative. And then, of course, the other way we fix our fiscal mess is we get back to saying yes to investment and growing the economy. And Steve knows a whole lot more about that than I do. But that's the other piece of it is you've got to be able to grow the revenue base over time.